Hey, everybody, how you doing? Woof.
Womp, womp, womp.
Welcome to PHLY Flyers Postgame presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We are joining you after my name's Bill Matz. That's Steve Gico. Charlie will be along at some point or another. I can't imagine Torts is going to talk all that long.
Yeah, right. This is a real enough said Torts night.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I don't
Let's
know,
get
bro.
on the train. I'm going back to the hotel. See ya.
I don't know, bro. Look at the box score.
Yeah.
All my answers are we got killed.
Yeah.
Flyers, I'm choosing to look at this as, a couple of weeks ago, we did that Dallas game, you and I, Steve, and we were like, all right, is this what it's going to be? Are they now, falling off the cliff, or was it a one-off?
That was a grade A stinker, Bill.
For that time period, it was a one-off. Listen, it was followed by that Anaheim game. If they weren't up for that one, move the team. But they've carried that momentum for a few games now. They've looked really good. They were on, a 6 or 7 game point streak, and tonight they flat out sucked. I'm going to choose to look at this as another just sometimes you don't have it game.
Yeah, it was an absolutely they do not have it night for them. And it's one of those nights where maybe I missed pregame. Maybe I should have skipped this too, because this was a real stinker tonight, folks. And it's a shame because it did start out exciting.
They score right away.
They had, was it a 3-on-2, a 3-on-1? They had an odd man rush, and they actually scored, which for long-suffering Flyers fans is always a miracle. And it was, some nice passing with Frost, Konechny, and Tippett. And that's what the start you want on the road game in New York. And then it was all Rangers after that.
Yeah, Shesterkin had a little shutout streak going. Flyers ended a minute 25 into the first. And then that was it. Shesterkin you look at the shots, you look at the shot attempts. Yeah, all right, it was kind of even. Shesterkin was himself tonight, and that's really, you have to vastly outplay the Rangers if you want to have a shot. You go back to that Black Friday game, Shesterkin was really good in that one, but the Flyers were by far the better team. Tonight, I will call a mediocre effort at best, and the Rangers are red hot. That is that's now, I think, a 10-game point streak for them. They have one regulation loss since the calendar flipped. They're 8-1-3 in 2025. They've been really good lately. And we've been saying, listen, if the Rangers and the Bruins get their crap together, they should walk away with these 2 wildcard spots, especially when you look at the rest of the competition for these 2 wildcard spots. Maybe that's just what tonight was, the Rangers continuing to kind of assert themselves as, yeah, man, we're in a normal year, one of the 3 best teams in this division. We should easily be in the playoffs. There was that dip that kind of coincided with all the Jacob Trouba stuff. They were really bad for 2 months there. But they've gotten it together. And the Flyers don't play an A game by any means, not a B game either.
No.
And the Rangers, they were just all over the Flyers tonight.
They were all over the Flyers, and it's just a rough one for the Flyers. It's a rough matchup because the Rangers have been red hot. And this is a team that you expected at some point, the results were going to, go in their favor because they're too talented.
Yeah, they just have too many good players. You can talk about their depth. You can say maybe some guys not having the year they're supposed to be having. But talent eventually wins, right?
Yes.
Eventually, especially in these division games against teams that don't stack up. The Flyers as a team effort, the sum is greater than the parts, whatever.
Yeah.
But you just look at these 2 rosters and go, yeah, it's not close. And tonight was not freaking close. I hope the Flyers are better tomorrow. I mean, they can't be worse. We can hope.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping this is just in terms of the way they played a one-off.
Yeah, and one of the things we were discussing while watching this game tonight, Bill, was how much this was the opposite of the Devils game that they just played, where they went up against a superior opponent in the Devils, a really tough matchup, and they played great defensive hockey in that game. They were stellar defensively. They let up, I think, as many shots in the first period tonight as they let up that entire Devils game.
Yeah, and JJ, as they're going to break, says, well, they gave up 13 shots. They gave up 15 all game to the Devils. And then you look, once they audit the shots, 15 in the first period. That's not Flyers hockey. That's not how they're going to win games. And you look at how some of these goals were scored. So much room in the middle of the ice refusing to take sticks away in the middle of the ice for long deflections, short deflections.
The traffic was a real problem tonight.
The one goal that I'll put on Ersson, yeah, there was some traffic, but it's really just two guys in front, and he doesn't battle through it, can't track the shot, and it beats him.
Was that the York goal? The one where like York was the one in front that should have been covering the fourth goal, I think? It's hard to keep track since there were so many goals scored tonight.
I want to say it was the third. I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, like I went back because I was really bored in the third period because they were stinking it up. But I was looking at all the goals, and like the first goal, Zamula's got to lift that stick.
It ends up like, oh, that's just bad luck because Zamula has a stick on the ice. He's trying to break it up.
Yeah.
There is another guy on the back door, but he's not defending him either way. If the puck gets all the way across, like the guy right next to him, he can nullify his own and the forward stick and hope that Sam Ersson can get across or that puck somehow skitters across or Ersson can cut it off before it gets there. But he does nothing, has a stick on the ice, and it's him who deflects it in. We see some longer deflections, and it's just like, man, why is there so much room in the middle of the ice here? That's not what the Flyers do.
Right.
They just suck defensively tonight, and their entire game starts with defense.
They were getting bodied tonight. You know, they were not the stronger team in pretty much every respect tonight. And, you know, that second goal, Brink, he's not a defensive guy. So you can't really, you know, you can hand ring as much as you want. That's not his game. The third goal was the one, I think we were talking about the same goal. And that one, Zamula was in no man's land.
Yeah, he's just in the, like,
what was
defending
he doing?
No one in front and then pops out into the middle of the ice, goes to one knee to block it, but he's nowhere close.
It was a bummer, too, because, like, I feel like he's been playing better defensive hockey of late. And he's turned into a solid, like, second, third pairing guy for the past few weeks. So this was a big reverse. This was like early season Egor Zamula that we saw tonight.
It sounded like he got benched a little in the first period. He only played like 4 minutes or so in the first, didn't play the last 4 minutes of the period. And Ristolainen's just getting so many extra shifts. It's hard to tell if it's like, well, they're just kind of going with their three top guys and then mixing and matching, or if someone actually gets benched. But yeah, rough game early on. Was it Hedl, I think, just walks Zamula.
Hedl had a night.
Yeah, but Ersson comes up with the save. There's that goal where he's just in no man's land. There's the own goal. Just some really, really tough plays for Zamula tonight. So I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, where's Emil Andrae? I don't know if he's back from – he was banged up. He missed a few games, but – and also, people are going to call for Andrae when they see Zamula, the guy they think taking his place, have a rough night.
Yeah, and also, look, they got one more game. They got the full weekend to go party it up. Like, just play them for the Islanders game. The Islanders stink. That's a good matchup, although back-to-back's never fun. And let's see what happens. But then maybe next week, if you need to regroup, we're almost at this tournament, all right? We get to this Four Nations tournament. The guys can rest a little bit. Relax. This was just a stinker against a hot team is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I am going to choose to look at it like that right now if this effort carries over to tomorrow. And it's a tough spot. You're in a back-to-back, again, division game. Gotta have if you're gonna make something of this playoff race. They talked about it on the broadcast. Like, coming away from these two games, 4 points on the line, you get none. Like, that's a real bad look for this team right now.
Yeah.
You got to hope they're better tomorrow. I want to get into Sam Ersson in just a second. But first, got to tell you about a couple of our partners, starting with TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Did all that holiday shopping leave you with a credit card balance that's weighing you down? Well, now think about this. What if you could pay it off faster and with zero interest until 2026? Well, with TrueMark Financial, you can, because TrueMark is offering zero interest on balance transfers for 12 months, so all your payments can go toward reducing your balance, not just covering interest. Here's what you got to do. Transfer your existing balance from another institution to a TrueMark Financial Visa credit card and take advantage of this amazing offer. But hurry up, because you have to apply by the end of next month, by February 28th, 2025, to earn this opportunity. So whether you're interested in earning rewards, cash back, or simply prefer a low rate for everyday purchases, with TrueMark Financial, you can choose the credit card that best fits your financial needs. Visit TrueMark.com/compare for full details and to apply today. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA, equal opportunity lender. Terms and conditions apply. All loans subject to approval. 3% balance transfer fee applies. Standard rates apply after the promotional rate. While we're here, why don't I tell you about Game Time? Well, maybe not the best time to be saying, oh, go check out the Fly Guys. But hey, man, we got all sorts of stuff coming to town, starting with a pretty big game on Sunday. And the best way to get in, it's with Game Time. And Game Time makes finding the best deals on the best seats easiest. With their new feature, Game Time Picks, it filters out the fluff so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And we still have the all-in pricing, the seat views, the low price guarantee, and the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time. What time is it? Game time. All right. Sam Ersson. So some really huge saves in the first period. Overcommitted with 2 Rangers and Zamula like on the back door maybe for that 1 goal. I wouldn't say it was his best game. Like ultimately he gave up 5 goals and that's bad.
Yeah.
But I don't look at this as, oh, here comes bad Ersson. But one thing I want to look at here is the workload. This is something I've been touching on a little bit recently. Talked about it in pregame. This was his 7th start out of 8 games since he came back from injury. The only game he didn't start was the back end of the back-to-back against Columbus. Makes sense, but he's in line now when you break down the schedule to start either 12 or 13 out of 16 games between coming back from injury and the 4 Nations.
Torts is insane.
Given what we saw out of him last year and listen, the workload, it was like 31 out of 36 or something. It was insane.
He wasn't ready for it last year.
But we saw it go real poorly last year. And this year we've seen him get hurt 3 times already. How you feeling about this Ers as the number 1 guy right now?
I was surprised that he started the Detroit game, to be honest with you.
A little bit, right?
Like if there's a game, I mean, I guess you have to stick Fedotov in tomorrow's game if you're going to stick
It's going to be
game.
him tomorrow.
It has to be him because he needs the break. He clearly needs it. And again, this game wasn't on him. The defense stunk tonight. Like
sucked.
The offense was bad too. The whole team was bad.
Yeah.
It was a bad effort. I'm very excited for the 3 stars tonight. But you know, like this it wasn't his night. It wasn't the team's night. I don't blame him. I do worry about the workload a little bit. And what was funny to me is the Flyers were carrying 3 goaltenders for a little bit there, and they were playing one of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, play these guys. Like, I know you're on a point streak, and I know that's a lot of the reason why Ersson's had more starts lately, but like, keep the big picture in mind, and you also have to develop these guys. Like, if you're going to have Kolosov on the NHL roster, play him. You know, I'm glad he's going to Lehigh Valley.
He has to play somewhere.
He's needed to be in Lehigh Valley the entire year, but he needs playing time, most importantly. It's not doing him any favors to be sitting up in the press box eating those Flyer-shaped pretzels. It's not good for him.
No. Now at least Kolosov down in the AHL, we have an answer to what the hell are they going to do. Ers number 1, Fedotov obviously a clear number 2. But my hope now is tomorrow we get a solid Fedotov game and we can maybe start to even out this workload a little bit.
It's got to get even out.
I know that they believe in Sam Ersson, and Danny Briere at that press conference, raved about him as a person and his work ethic and his mindset and all that stuff is why I wanted to see him get a shot this year at maybe becoming a little something else. But
I really like Sam Ersson.
I like him a lot as a backup, a tandem guy. I just don't think putting this workload on him is doing anybody any good. And yeah, they were a hot team, and you look at the goalies' records, like they really don't win much when the other 2 play. You know, it's pretty much Ersson has most of their wins this year. I just don't see how it's good for this team this is not the role Sam Ersson is going to be in. And putting guys in roles that they're ultimately not going to play, I guess, all right, now you know what a huge workload is. So when you're only starting half the games, maybe, you're better for it. But given the injuries now, I just don't see who this benefits.
I would gladly sacrifice a couple of games here and there just to have a healthy goaltender starting for the rest of the season. Because one of the things we've seen in recent weeks and recent months with the Flyers is just how important steady goaltending is. They lost a lot of games that if they just had reliable goaltending, they would have won those games. And it's just a fact at this point. Like, that is the way it is. But
you can't get those games back now.
You can't get those games back. And running him into the ground, a guy now has an injury history. Last year, We didn't know anything about him. Now he's been injured half the year. And last year, he clearly, once he had too much work, ran down a little bit. So, I don't support running him into the ground right now. I know you're getting points. I know you're getting back in the playoff race. But also, he ain't winning the cup this year. We all know it.
And that's yesterday, one of my big issues with when we discussed the Danny Briere press conference at length was this focus on the here and now, and whether it's, we trade Risto and that's a hole we're going to be looking to fill. Is it? Does it for when? For when are we talking?
For what?
Yeah, why? You keep telling us making the playoffs, maybe not the biggest goal. We're looking towards the future, and that's something I'm looking at with Sam Ersson. Yes, you're gonna get a few more points by starting him a whole bunch of games rather than splitting this up a little more equitably. But to what end? Yeah,
to what end? What is the end game here?
So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I do want to talk a little bit more about Zamula because I loved the our post game thumbnail that just said "rough night," and yeah, we could have used a tequila shot and a nicotine patch for the night that Zamula had.
It was a real citywide special kind of night right there.
That was just a freaking rough one. I mentioned potential calls, and they're just going to get stronger now after a bad Zamula game. For Emil Andrae, just checking out his game logs, he hasn't played since January 11th. He's been banged up. And the AHL schedule's weird. They play mostly weekends, so it's not like he's missed 2 weeks worth of games on an NHL schedule.
For the kids.
But yeah, it's still gonna be tough to justify. And I can get it. I can wrap my mind around it. They don't value Zamula more. They just think Andrae has some more learning to do. And rather than put him in a position where, listen, you remember that Olivier hit? You think teams aren't going to do that more and more to Emil Andrae and be make faster decisions, get your head up, get yourself out of those dangerous situations. As long as they know he's out there and not fully going to protect himself, they're going to throw those hits, and he's got a better chance of learning in the AHL. Zamula, kind of a place taker. They believe in him a little more than I think fans do. But I can't imagine they're sitting there Igor Zamula, he's absolutely a part of the future. It's just who else do you want us to play right now? But
right.
Fans will be justified in being, why can't we have the better player? It's very obvious, even if he's not a finished product yet, Emil Andrae a better player than Egor Zamula.
Oh, for sure. I loved when Andrae was in there. Andrae was such a breath of fresh air for this team when he was in there. I really enjoyed watching him. And Zamula on his best night is fine. On a good Zamula night, you're not really noticing him too much, which is not really saying a ton. I mean, that's nice for defense.
He's a decent enough bottom pair defenseman. That's what he is.
He's fine, but the problem is on his worst night, he's really bad.
That's the floor on him. We have now seen when it's bad.
It's the core of the earth.
And that's Egor Zamula, -2, 19 minutes tonight, 2 blocks and a giveaway. The giveaway takeaway stats, they're not calculated right. But
what is calculated right in this league?
Shots on goal, now heavily audited. They seem, while I don't agree with everything that they call a hit, they seem to be looking more closely at what is a hit.
They try.
And a lot of it is just did he get body positioning? We're giving him a hit. But the stuff you can bet on, block shots, all of that is right now.
Funny how that works.
But the things you can't bet on are just completely made up. I think it was a Detroit beat writer, the Red Wings at this point last year led the league in giveaways, and it was let's call it 300, and it was at this point in the season, this season they have the fewest. It is the same number. Who the hell knows how that's calculated? But yeah, Zamula not the strongest night. I do want to say though, Rasmus Ristolainen, his regular partner, 22-37, 2 blocks and a hit, and he ends up okay. He's even. It's not like he was a plus player. But in a game you lose by 5, that's a pretty damn good. This is something I want to ask Charlie about. Is Ristolainen starting to become a Tort-style rover? A Sanheim, almost like York? He now has the confidence of the coaching staff, not just to be a steady defenseman, but yeah, man, join the rush. go ahead, surf up and make yourself a little bit more of a target in the offensive zone because he's been everywhere the last few nights.
When I was at the Detroit game,
you were there the other night.
I was watching a few different guys. Like I really noticed Cates early. Cates had a great game. I really noticed Michkov because I'm looking to see what Michkov does in person.
Of course.
But the other guy I really noticed was Ristolainen. Ristolainen was awesome. And like to see him roving around there, generating offense, which is just wild to me. He was absolutely one of the more effective Flyers tonight. And like Travis Sanheim didn't have a bad game necessarily, didn't have a good game, but I wouldn't say he was one of the worst Flyers tonight. He ends up -3.
And like they're out there,
he's out there
like,
most minutes.
There's the empty net, like Michkov also a -3. There's the empty netter with
and also
the
plus minuses.
Yeah,
it's kind of garbage.
Sure,
but like the thing is, ultimately Ristolainen ends up even in a game where a lot of goals were scored against the Flyers.
I always look at it for outliers. Yeah. Like, yeah, man, on a team that's -100, sure, there's going to be a lot of dudes like -30. And if someone's +2, I'm like, oh, that's something, huh?
He's one of the few silver linings the Flyers had tonight. Like, I thought he had a pretty good game. Obviously, the Tippett, Frost, Konechny line scores a goal. So they did something. So, but another terrible night for the power play. The offense as a whole, just especially once that third period hit, there was just no comeback in this team. The offensive game plan. I want to ask Charlie about the offensive game plan. It was bad.
It's 3-1 going into the third, and you're like, this isn't impossible. Now, like with Shesterkin playing the way he's playing in net, yeah, they're going to need a whole bunch of chances. They're going to need traffic. They're going to need to maybe take advantage of a power play, which I know is asking for the world from this team. But it's like not impossible. And then you see the third period, and you're like, oh, yeah, they just do not, for whatever reason, they don't have it tonight. And there are a couple, like Mish, I thought had a subtly good game. Had some plays in the first really half of the game that were good, and thought he was decent enough defensively.
I think he's playing well with that line right now.
A few blocks.
I think Couturier is a really good partner for him.
I think Couturier and Farabee, like you want him out there with the highest end guys. It would be great if he and TK could play together. It would be great if he and Frost were a match, but they're just not. Like it doesn't work.
We've tried.
There's only one puck. They both need it on their stick more often. Tippett, I thought there was some chemistry building there, but again, like Tippett, when he's most effective, has like 11 shot attempts. I want Michkov to get a lot of time with the puck on offense. How do you do that when you have one dude who just chucking it from everywhere? Like
Bubba Chuck out there.
I think the best combination with the current lineup, like it won't be this way hopefully in a few years, but guys who think the game well. Are they the most offensively gifted? Are they the most skilled guys, Couturier and Farabee? No. But they have a good sense of where to be. Like the Farabee setup to Michkov in front that I don't know how Shesterkin stopped it. He's Shesterkin. But like, that was a great play, just kind of being able to find each other. We're seeing Michkov find guys all over the ice. I kind of like that combination, even if it doesn't get on the scoreboard tonight.
Yeah, because when I see Michkov, like the most frustrating times I see Michkov in a Flyers uniform are those times when he's making a play that other guys on the team can't anticipate. Like he's dropping a puck thinking, well, naturally the guy's going to come in and get that puck and nobody's home. Nobody's even thinking about it. So to have guys that kind of can think about the game in that way is a nice compliment for him.
It absolutely is. Something I noticed, that Rangers fourth line was a problem for this team tonight. And I don't think that to win a cup, you need to be like the 90s Flyers or, the 05, 06 Flyers.
You don't think we need a Dan line?
And have every like the smallest guy on the team be like 6'2", 220. But there is like an overall size disadvantage. And listen, when Matt Rempe's on the ice, everyone's at a size disadvantage. He's the size of a house.
He is the size of a house, but he kind of plays hockey like a house.
Yeah, he's not very good, but you just see him on the forecheck tonight. And the Flyers, like they were just getting cycled to death by every line. But the Rangers took advantage of the Flyers physically throughout this game. And a lot of it is, listen, this is a developing team. They're not used to it yet. They're getting there. And part of it is, man, I saw Morgan Frost with a puck down low in the zone with Matt Rempe on the ice, and he had a chance to make a play, and he just kind of bailed. He was like, get rid of this thing, and threw it like a grenade.
No, thank you.
I just saw a lot of, I don't want to call it softness, but just being at a big disadvantage being at a big disadvantage against the fourth line that isn't that good. Matt Rempe has 2 career goals.
They got out physical tonight. They got out muscle
100%.
And that fourth line matchup was terrible for the Flyers because I'll give it to Hathaway. Hathaway was trying his best out there, and I loved when he tried to goad Rempe into a penalty at one point. That was awesome. I've been enjoying Garnet Hathaway over the past couple of months. He's been doing that Hathaway thing. But when you have Richard and you have a Bowles out there on the fourth line, you have 2 phantoms and you have Hathaway, that's going to be a mismatch no matter what.
And listen, Richard, he's got really good speed. A Bowles, he's decently sized guy. He's one of the bigger centers this team has right now.
Yeah. But
it's a couple of phantoms with a few NHL games between them. Richard's had a cup of coffee, and a Bowles, this is his second game. He did almost score tonight.
He did. And when Richard's been effective with his team, he's had superior line mates like Michkov or somebody who can utilize his speed. But another phantom and Garnet Hathaway's not going to do anything.
When that was one of the lines creating the most chances tonight, it's a rough night. All right. Yikes. Let's throw it now to Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, joining us live from Madison Square Garden. It is Charlie O'Connor. Charlie, your thoughts on the game and any standout comments from the locker room to get started?
Yeah, I thought what was interesting about the comments in the locker room, at least, is that the Flyers were significantly less troubled by this game than I thought they would be. The general consensus from the locker room was that Shesterkin played very well, that they generated more than enough quality scoring chances. Shesterkin made a lot of really good saves, and that the Flyers didn't give up an insane amount of scoring chance. It was just that the Rangers did a really, really good job of executing on the ones they had. That there were some tip plays. There were some, one is a puck that goes off of Egor Zamula's stick. That really, this is one of those games where they felt that the 6-1 score did not adequately, accurately reflect the way the game was played. In the moment when I was watching, I didn't agree. I felt like the Flyers let this game. I'll compare it to the Devils game that they won, the one on Saturday. That was a game where they were playing against a team that was more talented than they are, and they slowed the game down. They turned it into a defensive struggle, and that's the kind of game they can beat the Devils in. The Rangers are also a team that is more talented than the Philadelphia Flyers. They have more really good players than the Flyers do, and I felt like once the Flyers lost control of the game in the first, they never got it back to the pace that they have to play to beat a team like the Rangers. Now, I totally agree that Shesterkin was fantastic, and this game probably was not a 6-1 level blowout in terms of quality of play. But I do think that if the Flyers get into a back and forth, trade chances, controlled entry kind of game against the New York Rangers, they're more likely to lose because the Rangers just have more players that can finish on their chances than the Flyers do. So I was intrigued by the fact that the Flyers were not that troubled. They didn't seem that disappointed with the way they played. They more just seemed disappointed with the outcome. I was surprised about that because I personally felt like they let this game get out of their control. They let it get out of the comfort zone they have to play in to beat a team like the Rangers.
Yeah, that was pretty much our, maybe they weren't as bad as the score, but if you have not your best game and Shesterkin's on, I don't know how they're going to be able to win that game with the way it was played tonight, and you kind of back that up. So that leads to my question, Charlie. Do you think this was just kind of a Flyers didn't have it, hot Rangers team, Shesterkin great kind of game? Or did the Rangers, kind of expose a weakness in the Flyers' typically tight defensive coverage? Because the middle of that ice was opened a lot tonight. We can talk about the tip plays, but a lot of that is because dudes were undefended in those areas. How do you think, do you think this was more the Rangers taking advantage of something or just the style of this game, Flyers let it get away from them?
I think it's more the latter. For example, you go to the Filipino goal that he scores to make it 4-1. I guess you could say that could be defended better, but I'm not quite sure how. Cam York is draped all over him. That's the kind of play I compare it in my article that I'm writing. I compare it to, the perfect pass with the tight coverage that a wide receiver makes over top of a cornerback that's all over the receiver. I don't know what Cam York could have done on that play aside from tackling him to make it so Filipino can't tip that puck. He's right there. He's draped all over him. I guess there's always something you can do. but that was as good coverage as I think he could possibly have done, in all fairness. So, no, I don't think there was something exploited. If there was something that was exploited in this game, and it's what I spoke of earlier about the style, the Rangers played a lot of this game on the rush. They were generating a lot of chances with speed, more odd man rushes than the Flyers usually give up. And I think the Flyers, if they have a defensive weakness, it's that they can struggle. I'm not even necessarily talking about odd man rushes. I'm talking about when a team gains the offensive zone with possession of the puck, they can get scrambly in their coverages, maybe, 3 to 6 seconds after the entry. And I think you did see that sometimes in this game. I just think that sometimes they can get confused with their assignments and they cover the wrong guy. They leave people open. So that popped up occasionally. But I will say that, the Rangers score a lot of their goals on plays that really were just perfectly executed. And you tip your cap to the Rangers. That's true. But, tip plays are tough because it's kind of like you're trying to run them all the time and you need a degree of luck for them to work. And tonight, a lot of them worked. I think the Flyers are going to lose this game regardless, but I don't know if they would have lost it to this degree if the Rangers weren't just, making these fantastic plays in terms of redirects and puck tips and things like that.
Now, Charlie, one of the Flyers we noticed on at least 2 of the Rangers' goals was Egor Zamula. How would you categorize his game tonight?
Well, the first period was horrendous. I mean, he was awful in the first. I actually thought he got better as the game went on. I thought that the final 40 minutes he made some plays. He also made some mistakes, but he was back to kind of what I expect him to be. First period, though, I don't know if he was benched to close out the first, or if they just skipped him for a shift, or if he was banged up or whatever. But he could have been benched because he was playing that poorly. Now, obviously, the goal that he accidentally tips in, can't do that. But also, it's kind of just bad luck. He's just sort of playing it. But he was getting burned in rush coverage. He was looking flat-footed. He was just, generally speaking, a mess in that period. And there were multiple times it felt like the Rangers were actively targeting him, which scares me because that was something that scared me from the jump when they sent Emil Andrae down. Because if he's down, someone's going to have to play that role. So far, it's been Zamula. And Zamula's been okay in that role. He hasn't been bad. Interestingly enough, John Tortorella said this morning that about 3-4 weeks ago, they considered sending Zamula down. Now, whether that was going to be by trying to pass him through waivers or was going to be getting him to maybe accept a conditioning assignment, I don't know. But the fact that he brought that up, the fact that they were that close to maybe going down that route tells you where he was a month ago. This version, at least the one I saw in the first period, was back to that guy. And that's disappointing because I was hoping he was past that. He clearly isn't. I did like the way he responded. He didn't completely fall off a cliff the rest of the game, but you also can't have first periods like that if you're a defenseman in the top 4, which he is.
So on the other end of that, assumed pairing, I thought Rasmus Ristolainen was one of the few bright spots tonight. He ends up with an even plus-minus rating in the game. The team lost by 5, which is kind of impressive to me. I'm seeing him develop, maybe not into like a Sanheim or like Werenski level rover, but do you feel like he's being tasked with even more responsibility, like at both ends of the ice right now? His ice time has been up lately. I feel like Rasmus Ristolainen is taking his game to yet another level after he's been mostly solid for the last year and a half. Now he's doing a little bit more. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, I mean, he was active tonight, to be sure. He made plays. He wasn't perfect. They were involved in some breakdowns. Everybody was involved in some breakdowns this game. But no, he made plays. And I don't think it's a particularly nefarious thing. Like if you're implying that they're showcasing him, I don't think so. I just think he's doing more. And he's feeling more confident about his overall game. I thought the first period, as bad as Zamula was, I thought Ristolainen was really impressive. Then I felt like Zamula got better as the game went on and Risto leveled off a little bit. So I don't want to act like he was incredible. But, yeah, he's been noticeable, to be sure.
I thought 2 of the more noticeable Flyers outside of that were Abols and Tony Dick tonight. Thought they played pretty well to our eyes. What did you think of the 2 Phantoms call-ups?
Thought Abols was really good. I love the big hit he threw on Rempe. That was really cool. Has a couple quality chances, to be sure. Richard, I was terrified that he lost an eye because of that, the way that kicked up to stop him. But in any case, Torts clearly liked what he saw on him because he threw him on the power play at the end of the third.
All right, Charlie. It looks like we're getting cut short on time here, so let's hit those 3 stars real quick.
Yeah, third star, I will go with Owen Tippett. I thought he was noticeable all game. Obviously gets the opening goal. He's flying around out there, to be sure. Owen Tippett, third star.
Star number 2?
Star number 2, Philip Hedl. I thought that 4th goal was maybe the biggest goal of the game. Flyers are still in it at that point, down 3-1. John Tortorella said after the game, hey, we get that next goal. It's 3-2. We're feeling pretty good about our chances. Hedl makes an incredible tip play with Cam York draped all over him. 2nd star, Philip Hedl, goal and an assist. He had a really strong game.
All right, and the 1st star?
First star, Igor Shesterkin.
Yeah.
He was great. And look, like, yeah, it's a 6-1 game, so it doesn't feel like a game the goalie stole. I don't know if I would say Shesterkin stole it, but I will say that Shesterkin made a bunch of really, really good saves. I think Tortorella said that by their tracking, they had 10 scoring chances off 17 shots in the second period. Obviously, that's a point where maybe you can turn the game. They don't get a single goal in that period. Yeah, that was probably the turning point of the game, and Igor Shesterkin looked like what he is, which is one of the best goalies in the world.
All right, that is Charlie O'Connor coming to us live from Madison Square Garden. Charlie, we will talk to you later. Have a safe trip home, my friend.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, this is the Bet365 post-game show. I'm Bill, that's Steve, and before we go any further, let me tell you about our friends at Shady Rays. Now, it might be cold here in Philly, but it's always sunny here as well, and it's never a bad time to be thinking about protecting your eyes from the sun, and our friends at Shady Rays are helping you get in the right frame of mind with their premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Sunglasses have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all your outdoor adventures. And if you're a skier or a snowboarder, they have a brand new collection of snow goggles as well, so make sure you check them out. With so many styles and colors available, you're bound to find the perfect pair of sunglasses or goggles to fit your style. And, maybe you want to be looking good for some stuff coming on soon. Maybe you want to go to New Orleans for the big game. Maybe you want to come with us to Montreal. There's no better look than Shady Rays. And if you don't love your shades, you can exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. So there's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. And PHLY viewers and listeners, go to shadyrays.com right now and save 35% off polarized sunglasses with code PHLY. Over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars, so you can use code PHLY today at shadyrays.com and become the next one. Get them on the way to 400K 5-star reviews. It's always good when you mess up your actual...
You're doing a great job.
Your actual employer.
You're crushing it.
Code PHLY.
The Flyers bad.
It's only been a year and a half.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's a tough gig. You're doing this night in, night out. You're crushing it, my friend. Now, Charlie mentioned Owen Tippett as one of his stars of the game.
Yeah.
I was shocked a Flyer made it, but pleasantly surprised.
He always likes to throw one in. And
I appreciate that. But, now that I think about it, Tippett did have a good game. I saw him in the offensive zone a lot. He actually had 4 shots on the night. And you know who he was tied with? Rowdy Roddy Abels over there.
There you go. No,
what a night for that youngster over. Who am I? Tom McCarthy. 4 shots, 3 hits on the night for the Rodster.
No, I was definitely impressed with the Bulls. He's been fine as a bottom of the lineup center. They brought him in along with Oscar Eklund this summer just to listen. Not only don't we have centers at the NHL level, we're pretty short of them throughout the organization, like a freshly turned 18-year-old made the NHL team out of camp, and he didn't exactly I wouldn't even say he had as good of a camp as Bobby Brink did a year ago, when Brink was just everywhere and you're like, he has to make the team.
But he played competent center, and that was really impressive.
I don't know. He looks like he can skate. Let's see if he can do it.
He can control the offensive zone a little bit.
Yeah, they bring in a Bulls, and listen, they're without Ryan Poehling. We don't know for how long. He's had some concussions in the past. He's out with one right now. It looks like it's a pretty decent depth add for a team that is desperate for centers. Now, yeah, they need centers in their top 9. They need a 1C.
We need a lot, Bill.
They need a 2C. But you also need them throughout the lineup, and where Ryan Poehling was pretty competent, you're not losing nearly as much as I thought you would without him.
Ryan Poehling was one of Tort's guys too. Like that's a big, big piece of the lineup missing for John Tortorella because he trusted him in too many situations, arguably, but he trusted him a heck of a lot.
No, and we were seeing it a couple of games ago where they have all those defensive zone draw. I can't remember if it was I think it was the Devils game, might have been the Islanders game before that, but whatever it was, a lot of late defensive zone draws, and we're not seeing Coots out there. It was basically all Cates, and that's a spot where you would see, where you would typically see Ryan Poehling as well. Maybe a Bulls can start working his way into that. Now, like, listen, there were no big defensive zone draws after the second period tonight, so
no.
It's not like we got to really see that in action, but maybe it's a guy you can trust in those spots, especially while Poehling's out.
We're looking for some competency right now, my friend. We are looking for some competency. And, the thing is the center position relies more on defensive prowess than other forward positions. So that's why it's tough to throw Morgan Frost in those situations because that ain't his forte there. So, it's nice to have a guy who's competent that can step in there and be that warm body that you need when the night is dark.
Now, Tony Dick is a favorite of mine.
It's a great name.
He is a star in our chat. Are you amongst the TD fan club?
The TD fan club over there. I like Richard a lot. I think Mr. Dix is very nice.
Hey,
I like his speed because that's a dimension that we have seen the Flyers not have for so long. The Flyers historically are not a fast team. And even now, like they have more speed, I think, maybe than I've ever seen on the Flyers, but like there's still
low bar.
It's a low bar. Like you've got Tippett, Konechny's got some speed, and like
Sanheim and Drysdale can really skate.
Yeah, like you've got guys who can skate, but like Tippett's like one of the few guys with real speed.
Yeah, like actual breakaway speed.
And Richard, again, I liked when he had a little stint with Michkov earlier this year where it gave Michkov something to work with where he can just be like, hey, go get that puck.
A guy with some finishing ability, a guy who can be like F1 on the forecheck and win some races. And that's another element, like with Poehling out, like, all right, if you have Lawton there, it's not like you lose a ton in terms of skating. But the one thing I noticed, like, from a Bulls in the preseason was like, oh, he is not fast. He is a much more deliberate player than Ryan Poehling. So if you're going to lose that element at center, like having Anthony Richard on the wing, at least it's not, all right, so we have Hathaway, who I wouldn't call slow, but he's not a burner.
He's pretty much whatever the
he gets
median.
It. Like he ain't winning races because he wants to throw the hit. First of all, like if he's the first one there, that's a waste of Garnett Hathaway.
Whatever the median rating in the NHL games is, that's what Garnett Hathaway is.
He is absolutely. He is an intangibles guy, but at least you don't lose that full element when Richard's out there. And he can push the defense a little because he had 6 points in 7 games when he was up earlier in the season. He's obviously an adept AHL scorer. He's been that throughout his career. I just like watching him.
I like speed. It's a fast game.
It's such a change of pace from the guys, especially over the last few years. Like their call-ups have just been such vanilla. Like, we're just trying to have guys out there who aren't going to get killed. Like, just be defensively responsible. Don't try anything too flashy. Just guys who aren't going to win you a game ever. And I'm not saying Anthony Richard's going to win them any games. But listen, in a 1-1 game in the third period, you can have him out there and maybe he'll score. And that, like, was never going to happen with, Connor Bunneman and all those dudes.
There it is.
All those dudes without contracts that just kind of got sent to Florida with Claude Giroux in that trade. Like, all those guys.
God. Like, man.
Here, have a bunch of these guys.
Just a bunch of creative players right there.
Exactly.
Like, they might as well have just been, Mark Gall. They might as well have just been that, like, outline picture of like a head that they show for a guy they don't even have like a profile picture of. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take speed any day. Like anybody with speed is an improvement for this team.
That was a scary moment for him taking that skate to the face.
Oh my God, because
luckily it was the boot and not the blade because he caught that like right under the eye on the cheek. That was scary for him. And it is that he's down. The trainers come out, but you see like. Obviously, there's no good way to get hit in the face with a skate.
That's about as good as it gets.
In terms of how it could have ended, that was the least damaging.
Yeah, because when you looked at, because we didn't see it at first.
Yeah.
We just saw him down on the ice holding his face, which is never a good sign in hockey.
No.
And then my first indication was, well, the ice isn't red, thankfully.
Yeah.
So that was good. But then they showed it, and I was like really worried that it sliced him up because, like, the angle of that, he got very lucky.
He did. And, like, when I see him out there and the trainer's not rushing to get him off the ice, to get him stitched up or whatever it is, they're not, like, trying to pressure anything. It's just, okay, we're not about to see a freaking disaster out here tonight. So that was good to see. I am looking forward to some more Tony Dick, man. What else can you say? He is a star of, it's very, like, the last, like, previous regime of Flyers when we're like, give us this guy. Oh, it's Taylor Lear. He's not very good.
No.
But, like, listen, he's giving them a little pop, and maybe we'll get to see a little bit more of him. He was out there on that power play at the end when they went 6-on-4 instead of Bobby Brink. So maybe he's got a little bit of a role there too as well.
Torts is a total madman sometimes, just a complete madman.
He really is. Stuff I didn't get to with Charlie was really just the goalie stuff, and he kind of gave you his thoughts on that. A lot of tip plays, a lot of weird goals.
And I was going to ask about the offensive scheme, but, like, it seemed like Charlie felt more like, I don't know, like they had it at the beginning and then they lost it real quick. And Shesterkin was also just lights out. Like, it really can't be stated enough just how good Igor Shesterkin was and is in general.
No, and that's, like, he's just, when he's on, maybe the best goalie in the world. He's top 3 in the league right now. Him, Hellebuck, and fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Like, but he was awesome tonight. And you can only expect so much when Igor Shesterkin is on. I didn't think, listen, they can tell you all like Charlie said, they thought they had 10 scoring chances in the second period on 17 shots. Yeah, maybe.
Sure, Jen.
There just wasn't enough consistent pressure, whereas the shots were even, but the zone time was not tonight. It was another Flyers, the last few weeks, even when the zone time isn't even, they're not giving anything up. And tonight, it was just a little bit more open in the middle. And maybe those tip plays are hard to execute and they got a little lucky, but there were some sticks that could have been nullified. There was some better body positioning that could have been had, and they got beat tonight.
And they got that traffic in front, which is, I think, one of the biggest problems with this current iteration of the Flyers is they don't generate traffic in front of the net. They don't have a lot of big bodies offensively to do that.
All right, before we go any further, let me tell you about our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I had a couple tonight. Cam York, who seemed like he had every scoring chance for the Flyers, unable to find the back of the net. And I had that whole thing about 1-goal games and going to overtime, and the Flyers lose 6-1. So we took another beating at the hands of Bet365 tonight. But all season long, I have been using Bet365 as my sportsbook of choice. Whether it's player props, spread, total, futures, whatever it is, I am exclusive to Bet365. I think you'll dig it there too. And we have breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, win or lose. So sign up, use code PHLY365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or somebody who knows a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah, that was rough calls for me tonight.
It was not a fun game, Bill.
Because Cam York, I want to check the event summary here, because he was freaking everywhere and somehow doesn't even come away with a point. Where you at, Cam York? Number 8. 5 shots on goal and another miss. Somehow doesn't score. Listen, he was on it. It's not as if I picked some guy who didn't show up at all. It's just, listen, it's Igor Shesterkin. Maybe you just shouldn't bet anytime goals when, like, the best goalie in the world is in the net.
Perhaps you can bet the under for the Rangers goals allowed. Something like that.
That's team total under was probably the play for the Flyers tonight. But we learned our lesson.
Yeah, I mean, gone are the days where the Rangers underestimate the Flyers and start their backup, sadly.
Well,
but, once they race to the top of the standings again, then maybe they'll do that to us again.
I'll always remember it was like 08 or 09, and the Flyers actually had Lundqvist's number for a little bit, and all of a sudden they played them kind of like a schedule now where they played them twice pretty close, and it was Steve Valcat both games. He pitched a shutout in both games. Because why the hell wouldn't he? That's just the way it goes.
That's the bet, folks. If there's a backup goaltender in there, that's a shutout right there.
All right, before we get to the super chats and stuff, I wanted to get your take on the Danny Briere press conference, Steve, because we haven't talked in a few days before tonight, and there's a wide range of opinions. You know, on Blue Sky today, I'm the negative one. I don't see it. I'm getting crushed because I'm being too negative. And on Twitter, I'm shilling for the team.
This sounds right, actually.
I absolutely love being told I'm doing both because that means I'm doing my job.
Yeah, it does mean top notch. Top notch work, Bill.
The negative people don't like me. The optimistic people don't like me. I must be doing the right thing. But it's I had some issues with some of the things Danny said. Ultimately, it's like, what's he going to do? Come out and say, I'm going to trade this guy, this guy, this guy. I'm in negotiations with this guy, and I'm going to hold firm at this number, and this is what he's going to end up getting. Like, he can't actually tell you anything. But I think people were just looking for a little bit more.
They're always looking for a little bit more. That's why, I hate these press conferences, because what's the point if you're saying nothing? Like, it is great content for blogs. Like, it'll give people rage bait and everything.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
We
put out a clip today. It was great.
Oh, yeah. I take all this stuff with a grain of salt. Every time I take it with a grain of salt, because GMs can't tell you the truth. They just can't do it because that's the game. They are paid to lie. Like, if you ever believe a GM, you're just fooling yourself, because they are lying, because they're playing a game with the other GMs. Yeah, Rasmus Ristolainen is the most valuable player I think we've ever had in a Philadelphia Flyers uniform. I can't imagine trading him. Like, that's him fishing. That's him just going out there and saying, like, hey, make me a better offer.
And that's with Sean Walker last year, it was a little tougher to swallow when it's like, yeah,
that was tough because we didn't know, there was no track record for Briere at that point. So we didn't know, like, is he being serious right now?
And you get the rumor like, oh, they've reached out just to ask, like, what's it going to cost to re-sign him? And that makes everyone a little nervous. And that's an asinine thing to do in the position you're in.
Yeah.
And it'd be crazy for the contract that would even make sense a little bit for the Flyers to give him this is it for Sean Walker. Like, this is your time to get paid, man. Taking whatever they offered you was stupid as hell. Good thing they traded him, but he was in a position where that walk away bluff wasn't real. He can't. He wanted the first round pick, but ultimately, you can keep the 30-year-old defenseman that you got as a salary dump from the Kings, and he's going to walk in UFA. Like, that was crazy. You do have, and this is negotiating 101, with Risto under contract, you do have the threat of walking away. You can always go, yeah, offers aren't up to snuff. I already told you what I think of him. And he's out there now being, listen, man, a right-handed D, big physical, solid game, playoffs come around. Who wouldn't need a guy like this? He's pumping his tires.
You know who also loves that guy? The president of the club.
Well, that's the other thing. I just hope that they know. I always want to call him Andrew McDonald. Hunter McDonald.
Well, because that name is forever seared into our brain in a negative connotation.
Morgan Frost takes it now, but there is definitely no name we've said more, going back to the early days of BSH Radio, than Andrew McDonald. So it's just kind of always, but I hope, especially with Brad Shaw, they realize we can do this with that guy.
Yes. And the thing is, they have defensive prospects. Hopefully they're going to get a lot more this coming draft. Get those lottery balls, my guy. Get those lottery balls. So, it's frustrating to hear him make these comments, and they're very, kind of milquetoast comments, well, that. That's why I hate the midseason presser. I hate the midseason presser because it's always a whole bunch of nothing.
I also hate just a little thing in people's reaction. And listen, I thought the press conference was fine. He didn't blow me away. I'm not more sold on the plan than ever or anything. But
is he going to put on a show?
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to start
juggle, and it's America's Got Talent up there. I will, people are oh, he's up there. He doesn't even have answers to questions. He's got to think about what he's saying. One, you should.
Oh, he has to think. That's
you should always.
We don't like thinking around here.
If you've watched this show at all, sometimes I just pause and I'm like, what you're about to say is not going to sound right. You need to think about it. Also, English not Danny Briere's first language. He has to think about what he says sometimes.
That's true. We can't just start blasting like these two guys.
English is my only language, and I need to take a lot of time to think. So, I thought that was unfair.
And I'm not trying to bait other GMs into bad trades.
Exactly. Like, I thought some of the reaction to it was a little like,
dude, that's Flyers
that's what
fandom for you right there. That's Flyers social media.
It is going to be.
People lose their minds over every little thing with this team because we are true diehards. Like, Flyers fans are diehards in a way that few other fan bases are. You have to be. If you've been watching this slop since 2010 or less, you're nuts. Like, Bill and I always say, like, we've been watching it since we were kids. We watched the Legion of Doom. Like, we've seen some legitimately
memories, at least,
great Flyers hockey at times. I don't know what some of these newer fans have seen that have had them sticking with this team.
It's crazy
to bleed orange and black, but bless your souls. But like, I don't know. But this team's torture. We're true diehards, and yet we take it a little too seriously sometimes. So, namaste. Take a deep breath. GMs lie.
That's like, if you take a lot of it at face value, it's definitely frustrating. I just can't get all the way there. I think some of the stuff, like the thing I reacted to yesterday, like, oh, yeah, well, number one center is hard to find. Nobody really wants to trade them. And if they do, the price is crazy. Yeah, exactly.
That sounds very Chuck Fletcher-esque.
Is.
And I understand. Like, I was very frustrated. When Chuck Fletcher came out and said the job was hard, that was, I think...
What are they paying you?
That's one of the top 5 infuriating moments in my life as a Flyers fan. Like, when he said that, I'm like, this is your job. Of course it's hard. You're getting paid a lot of money to be the general manager of a hockey team. Of course it's hard.
It always just makes me think, like, I always say, like, whenever I call this work, like, oh, I got to go to work, I take a step back and I'm like, no, my dad for 40 years was like a heavy equipment mechanic. My mom taught second grade for 30. Like, those are hard jobs. This is not work, you know? And when you hear that guy, I always think of the Bill Burr redheaded roofer in the summer bit. Like, oh, you think your job's hard? You know? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing an email job and I'm doing this. Like, my family's a bunch of plumbers who have shot knees. Like, I think I'm making out all right.
All right, let's hit those super chats. Only a few tonight. Let's see this first one here from Aborphus. At least Danny listened to Charlie about Kolosov. I honestly was like, we used to joke about this all the time because there was a run of the Flyers doing stuff like immediately after our shows would end at BSH Radio.
Oh, I'm aware.
Like
the Flyers have stolen multiple ideas from me.
The Tyrell Goulbourne call-up. We did that live on Wildfire Radio, and then 20 minutes, not even, I wasn't even packed up, and they called him up. I was infuriated by that. I really was.
Call up Goulbourne.
I'm sure this thing has been in the works for a little bit.
Right. They didn't just hear Bill Matt say, I got to get on the phone and get this kid up here.
Danny said, like, there's been a lot of communication. There's a lot of moving parts. We think he'll accept the demotion. And listen, 2 days later, he did. So it all worked out. Whether he listened to Charlie and me or not, who's to say? But Charlie did ask the question straight up, and I was happy that he got that out there. And the only other one tonight from Timbo Slice here. Why not us? Well, we got some work to do. Minor hiccup in the overall journey. Still winning the whole damn thing. Hashtag I still believe. Hashtag let's go Flyers. Hey, man, I love the optimism. I love when people keep their bits alive, even in the face of a 6-1 loss to a division foe that you are battling for a wild card spot.
If you're not having fun with it, what are you even doing?
Honestly, that's what you always have to think is it's sports, man. If you're not enjoying it, that's what I've been telling. Like, that's the thing I just kept saying today when people were mad at me. If you think you know how this is going to end, like you're positive this rebuild's going to fail and we're 20 more years of mediocrity and all that, you're clearly not having fun. Just do something else with your time. And also play the lottery because you clearly have this ability to know how the future is going to go.
Now, I say this as a guy who spent part of the Eagles game last week like this with an entire house full of people looking at me like I was the strangest person in the world.
I try to control the game with my mind as everyone else freaks out. So like they're all like, and I'm going to be honest with you. I called the Jalen Carter and Isaiah Rogers play. Just saying.
You made it happen.
I made it happen with my mind. All right. Before we wrap up, just want to say we appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show. And honestly, more of the show is the ending. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, you got to hit that subscribe button. Follow us right here on the YouTube page. Make sure you hit that reminder bell so you never miss a live show. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. Yell at me, call me a shill for the team, or call me too negative. Either one is fine by me. And follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers and check out Flyperbole too. We've been getting rave reviews about Steve on these post games. check out his show. Check out everything going on at Broad Street Hockey. They would greatly appreciate it. All right, until tomorrow, I'm Bill Matz. That's Steve Jaco. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
We all silly like the mayor.